Hey everyone, this is What's Good About Grief podcast, where we talk real, raw emotions, good, bad, and ugly. I'm April, and I'm here along with Sharon and Debbie, and we're going to talk about their grief and their loss and how it changed them. Sharon, so I know that you have an incredible story to tell, and I don't know a whole lot about John Michael, but I do know some things, that you've shared with us before, that, he was a teacher, he was a husband, and he was a drummer. He loved the drums, and he loved to play music. He was also the one who often got in trouble at school.
All the time.
So tell me a little bit more about John Michael and your kids and his siblings.
So John Michael was my youngest son, and he was ridiculously funny all the time, just always getting in trouble from the time he was in kindergarten. I remember him coming home and he said, "Mommy, I had such a great day." And I said, "You did?" And he said, "Yeah, I got to sit by the teacher all day." And so I knew at that point that we were in trouble. And so this went on and on. And so he was just so funny and so full of life and loved everybody. And he has big brother and Scott, that's the middle son, and then Carolyn, my oldest child. And they were very close. They used to play music together, and John Michael played the drums. Started at the age of fourth grade. And I remember going to a show that they did at the elementary school. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, he wouldn't stop playing drums. He played when the bell rang and everybody was supposed to leave because he realized how good he was, I guess. I don't know. So he used to do that. And as he got older, he would play for churches all over, and then ended up getting a scholarship at Liberty for playing drums. And they were on a travel team that they used to travel all over and play music and tell about the school. He was just so fun all the time. And I never knew what was going to happen with him. One time, it was my birthday, and he said, "Mom, put on the weirdest outfit you can put on." So I'm weird too. So I did. I put on just ridiculous stuff. I come walking down the steps. He had music on, came down the steps, and he had like this little ice cream thing set out. And I said to him, "Why am I wearing this?" He said, "Just because I knew you would." So he used to do stuff like that. As a teacher, he used to tell me things that he did, and I was very concerned because he was crazy to the students, but they loved it. He did speed dating when he was trying to explain something out of Shakespeare, and had the kids, act it out, and then they ended up enjoying reading and stuff. I could go on and on, but I think back when my daughter was in college and she had graduated with her master's, and we went out to eat to celebrate downtown Atlanta, and we were all walking, right? And I remember turning around and looking at him, and there was a homeless guy, and he was sitting there rubbing his back and talking to him. And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my God, he could get shot or knifed." And then it hit me. He had such love for everyone. I mean, whether they were Christian or not. And he used to, preach at places from the time he was a senior in high school. So that was my sweet John Michael. I could go on and on, like I said.
Sounds very compassionate.
And loved Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
As Jesus. Jesus, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter was his favorite.
Nice. Now, what about, I know that you obviously struggled a lot with Scott. So when Scott was younger, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Right. He had leukemia. And I think that's why my three were so close, because I always had to worry about Scott's low counts. We were always at the hospital. And so they hung out a lot together, the three of them. And he's doing good now. Yeah, I'm that was a tough time.
And how old was he when he was diagnosed?
He was 3.5, and Carolyn was 4, and then John Michael was 1. That was another story when we were at the hospital back then, and they used to call him Danger Baby because he'd run around, and at the time, the way they had the chemo set up, they were like on poles and stuff. He used to grab it thinking it was like a bottle. We had to tell him no. But they go, oh, you're bringing Danger Baby with you, because that's how he was.
So obviously the three of them were close. How did he handle that? And how long, I guess, was Scott sick and in the hospital? And because that seemed like a really long time.
Yeah, I would say because he went through elementary school, and then by the time he got in middle school, he was done, but you had to keep going and getting checked and stuff. So for a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. How do you think that affected John Michael and Carolyn?
I think he was worried about him. Carolyn probably a little bit more, having this beautiful little, because she was little, she must have been about 5 or 6, and wrote a little thing to her brother and said, I will be sick if you're not. Aww. So she just really took good care of him and was so good with John Michael.
So that's sweet. So I wanted to touch on what had happened to John Michael, but let's start with the night before.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell me about the night before.
So the night before, John Michael was going to have a week off from school. It was their fall break, I guess they call it. And so he came home, and with Alex, he was newly married, and they were living with us just for a short period of time because they were trying to save up for a house. Anyways, he came home, and Alex had her friend with her, and they were gonna, I said, do you want to go to dinner? And then I noticed that he had Allie with her friend of Alex's, and so I said, no, you guys can go. You know, they were gonna hang out. I said, you guys can hang out, and I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, Mom, I like hanging out with guys. So anyways, we went out to eat and had a really funny time. I shouldn't say this, but the waiter was drooling. So John Michael would make faces at me. He was sitting across from me, and I'm kicking him, and he's kicking me. I don't know why he was drooling, but he did drool in the food, so we ended up, eating the food okay. But anyway, so we get back in the car after we ate, had a really good time, and Alex and him were breaking out in song, and of course I was adding in, and we were just being really silly. But when we got home, there were some dishes in the sink, and so we were washing dishes, and he said, somehow we got talking about heaven, and I'll never forget this conversation because it's bizarre, but he said, I can't wait to go to heaven. And I remember saying to him, don't say that. I don't think I could do it without you. I'm going to go before you. And we kind of laughed about it, but he was just saying how beautiful it was going to be and how excited it was. Okay. So anyways, we went to bed that night, and in the morning, before we went to bed, his 2 friends that I didn't know, he had tons of friends, but these 2 I didn't know from a new church they were going to. We're going to go camping. So Alex and him decided they were going to do it first thing in the morning. So that night we went in and started gathering some stuff that we had, packing and stuff like that. So in the morning, they were going to go bright and early, and I was laying in the bed, and I could see Alex and him being really silly, their silhouette as he's gathering stuff. And normally I always get up and I always say, I love you and goodbye. But I was so tired that morning for some reason, and I didn't. And so they left, and the day goes on, and it must have been in the evening. My husband gets a call outside, and he walks in the door, and he's, Alex, I guess, had called him. And he comes in the door, and he was white as a ghost. He said, I don't know how to tell you that. And I said, what do you mean you don't know how to tell me? And so I started naming all these people that I thought maybe something happened to. And he said, it's John Michael. And I said, what do you mean it's John Michael? And he said he slipped and fell off a waterfall. And I said, is he okay? He said, no, Sharon, he's gone. And anyways, whoosh. So I was just in shock, and I wanted to call Scott, and Scott was in Texas at the time, and
Carolyn had just flown out to see him because she was living in Ireland. And so he had to tell Scott, and they were just so upset, him and Carolyn. And a friend of ours flew them back right away, so they came home. And then I had another friend. I called, and I know I probably didn't sound coherent at all. She was at some party. So she came over and just sat with me. And I guess I was in shock and just felt like I was outside my body and everything was moving on and all these people were coming and I really didn't want to see them. I just wanted them to leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like an out-of-body experience. Just,
Like
you're outside looking in and this can't possibly
this is
be
not
real.
Possible. How can he fall? But, it was so bizarre.
And he had been hiking several times before? Is this something that he enjoyed doing?
No, I mean, he's hiked before, but it's not like something he did all the time. And they were just having a really good time. And anyways.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. It's just, that's a lot to take in. Now, do you feel like, I know for myself, when my mom passed away, like I always felt like I would just kind of have this premonition of like maybe when it would happen. Like I would know when this was going to happen. And it turned out I didn't at all. Like I went to school that morning. She had been sick for a while and I had gone to school that morning and didn't have a clue that was the day. And do you feel like, you think to yourself, like you would know that something terrible is going to happen, or, you would have this gut feeling. Do you feel like you did, or do you feel like you were?
Yes. It must have been about, and I don't know what time the accident happened. They had to do all this stuff, but probably about 1 or 2 o'clock, I found his wallet on the floor because he just had his pants on the floor because he must have changed his clothes. And I remember taking the wallet and putting it on the counter, and for some reason, and I wasn't mad about the wallet. I had this like horrible anger, and like I couldn't explain it. I don't even know why I had that, and I don't know if that's a premonition or what. I can look back at things like think about our conversation. Was I being set up to kind of figure this out? But like I said, you never think something like that's going to happen to your kid.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't prepare you either.
Yeah, nope. Nothing's. I just I've lost both of my parents, but that's the difference, I think, too, with grief, is that no relationship is the same.
Nope.
So when you lose somebody, it's, let's say you've lost a sister or a brother. It's not the same as a mother losing their child. It's not the same as, a child losing their parent. It's not, all of
losing a child.
Yeah, there's all these different relationships and different dynamics that people have where the grief sets in different because that relationship is different. A husband and wife, like those situations are different. So I think it's good to talk about all of these things that have to do with grief. And thank you for sharing your story. So I'd like to talk to Debbie now just a little bit about John and Jake. And so what I know of John, your husband, was that he was very charismatic, just kind of larger than life personality. He always kept a $20 bill in his pocket. If he would see somebody on the street that maybe could use it. He was a godly man, and didn't he start a men's group?
He did, yep.
Was this like, I know that was it on the lake?
No.
Okay. That's somebody else I'm thinking about.
They were called, they use Matthew 4:19, which is fishers of men.
Okay. And I know a lot of, well, not a ton about Jake, but I do remember him, obviously, because you and I had met at our kids' school, and just, Jake running around, and he had come up to you with this big old chocolate face and says, Mom, could I have more money for the concession stand? And, you're like, oh my gosh. And you give him more money, and he runs off and he goes and plays with his friends, and just a very sweet boy with a ton of friends, and
chocolate face.
So, and now tell me about Jake, and how close Jake and McKenna. Your oldest is McKenna, and then Jake was the baby.
Yeah, Jake, sorry.
It's okay.
Jake and McKenna were 3 years apart, but you wouldn't really have known it. They were very, very close. And, she used to get annoyed with him, but every single night she would go to his room and drag him out of bed. So he would go in her bedroom and sleep with her because she was scared. And every morning I'd get up and find him in her bed without fail, even to the point where they were at school and they got lice. And I was like, you guys, I had... And it kept going back and forth in school, and McKenna had it, and we had the lady over to get it out of her hair, and I was like, you cannot stay in your brother's room. You guys cannot stay together. And the next morning I get up, and now she's in his bed, and next thing you know, they both have lace. And I'm like, their heads were like head to head in the bed. And I'm like, no! And it was a disaster. But yeah, they were super close. And even though he was so little, he was like her protector, and just the sweetest little guy. Like, just everybody just loved him, and he could be really shy if you didn't know him, but once you did, he was so funny. He was extremely, extremely witty.
Kind of like his dad, huh?
Oh my gosh! But in a sweet way,
in a sweet way, not
way. And also he knew how to read a room. Like, he just knew if there was emotion in the room, and he'd be like, okay, group hug. And he'd make us all do group hugs if, we were arguing or irritated with each other. And he'd be like, stop, group hug. And he'd just come over and hug. He was the best hugger that I've ever met in my life. That's one of the things I miss the most about him, especially at such a young age he was, 10. And for him to have that skill and be able to just know people's feelings and just have such compassion and empathy, and knew when to be funny, when to be serious, when to just sit next to you quietly, and then just when to crack a joke. Like, what just popped in my head too is there's some movie with I guess there's a spaceship that falls down from the sky into the ocean. I forget what movie it is, but John and McKenna were watching it, and I guess I had just brought Jake home from practice or something, and Interstellar, maybe? I don't remember. It was some woman in this pod that's shooting down from space.
Oh, gravity. It's like this. It's my deepest, darkest fear to be in space by myself with a whole lot of nothing.
Nobody wants that.
The most terrifying, watching that movie. I was so I'm going to have a heart attack watching this movie. Yes.
Yeah. So we come in the house, and, we're loud and giggling, and John and McKenna are looking at us like, shh, we're watching this movie. It's at this intense stage. And all of a sudden, so we just got quiet. And so we both just sat down, and they're watching the movie. And all of a sudden, this thing drops out of space into the ocean. And Jake goes, she came in like a wrecking ball. Oh my gosh. And we just busted out. It was the funniest thing. And they're all just they were at the point where they were so intense. And then he does that, and we just start cracking up. And it was to the point where we were crying, laughing so hard. And that's just, he was quick like that, and witty, and just kind and thoughtful. And
yeah.
Anyway.
So,
I love chocolate and smiley faces.
Yes. Love chocolate. And tell me about the smiley face.
He was always obsessed with smiley faces way before emojis were the thing, and he would always just be drawing smiley faces. And there's one special one that he did, because one morning I came into his room and they weren't in there, and I went into McKenna's room and they weren't in there, and I was like, what in the world? Where are these two? And got to get ready for school. And so I go in the guest room, and they're both sleeping in there, and I rip the covers back, and there's a smiley face with a Sharpie, and I was like, buddy, what is this? You drew on the sheets with a Sharpie. I'm like, and I'm trying not, I'm not mad because it's super cute, but I was like, what happened? What are you doing? And he's like, Mom, I had a bad dream, and I thought the smiley face would make me happy, so I drew it on there. And so that's the one I have on, the hats and stuff. But that's just who he was.
So we're going to get into the nitty gritty, painful part.
Probably should say trigger warning for people listening.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. So tell me about, because you guys were going on vacation, and prior to that, I know John came home with a special gift for you guys to go on vacation with. Kind of tell me about that. I don't know if you want to go back when you guys left for that trip or the day of. I'll let you.
It was just something that we had enjoyed doing through the years, and he had come home with 2 jet skis, and I don't even like to say the words. And we had gone on them several times before, and that morning, this is where some of the other stuff we'll talk about later. But I always prayed before we went out on them, and it was on the Intercoastal in North Carolina, and we were leaving the next day. So we're like, oh, we'll take them out again today before we go home tomorrow. And I prayed extra, and I had them each, I had John and McKenna and Jake each be part of the prayer. And we went, and it was, we had a good time, and we were actually finished. And McKenna and I pulled up first, and we tied them down. And then John and Jake pulled up, and they were supposed to tie him down. And Jake stood up, and he was on the front, and he grabbed the handle that had the, whatever that thing is called, the gas trigger. And it's really, really, really ugly from there. And unfortunately, McKenna and I had to both witness it and then be a part of it. We didn't have our phones. So her experience was so horrible because she was just running and screaming for help and trying to get help, and ran up the, I don't know, like a drive where you back them down, and up at the top, a little bit of ways away, there was a restaurant. She just had she was only 13, and this poor kid had to run into the restaurant. She was just screaming for help, and nobody knew what to do because, here's this kid that comes in and not like interrupts a restaurant and, screaming for help. And I had to make a choice of who to jump in after. Anyway, that's probably as far as I can talk about, but
that's fine. I think it's incredibly brave of McKenna at that age to run into a restaurant.
Yeah.
I think back at my 13-year-old self, and, I probably would have been frozen, just, stuck and absolutely frozen. So I think that was incredibly brave of her to do that. And nobody should have to make the choice of who to jump in after, or this is just a horrible, horrible situation. So we can stop there if you want. And take a beat, take a breath.
We'll change the topic maybe.
Yeah. So this podcast is really about, good grief, and it's about grief and loss. And we're really trying to help anybody else who is going through a similar situation. So there's going to be funny stories, some very strange stories, some everybody can relate stories. But I think Debbie had such a great kind of just words about it. You said it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
So
it's not okay to not fight.
But it's not okay to not fight, right? We're all going to go through some hard times. And I think that when people experience grief and loss, it changes them wholeheartedly. And it changes
everything.
It changes your relationships. It changes who you are. It changes, maybe you were outgoing and now you're not. Maybe,
You're funny.
You are funny, Sharon. You're still funny.
That's funny.
I think what happens is you feel like there's a part of you that's lost. Like that old self of yours is now a different self. And people obviously recognize that, and they maybe miss that person. And I miss that person too. I miss my old self, and I see glimmers of it, but it's taken, time. And I think that's okay. We need to let people be validated in that. Like, so often people are like, oh, how long has it been? You haven't moved on yet? And I'm like, I want to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I can move forward. I will never move on. And that's the important thing, because I think I feel Sharon and I both have talked about this. We felt so much shame from people like, oh, you're not better yet. Oh, you still experiencing that. Oh, you're not doing this or that yet. And it's like, shut up, just shut up.
I was thinking also, you feel like as a Christian,
yes,
can't be mad at God. I can't be mad at God. I should be. You hear about these people that are doing all these things after a loss, and not that they shouldn't, but sometimes it made you feel like, well, I don't feel like doing that. It's taken years for Debbie and I to get to the place where we can do this now. Just because people put it, especially as Christians, they'll hand you scriptures or books or
don't do that.
And I get don't do that, and I would get very upset because I know God is a loving God and He will protect us, and so I have a lot of questions, and I can question, and they make you feel guilty or bad if you're angry. I can be angry.
But I think that's where the loss is too, because if we know God that is this amazing, I don't want to say person, obviously, this amazing being and all that, and that He loves us and all these things, well, I can love someone and still be angry at them, and that should be okay. And I shouldn't be made to feel bad that I'm mad at God, because you know what? It's getting better, but I am. And Sharon and I have both been very angry at God. And why did He, I know He didn't cause it, but He allowed it. And then there's other people that have miracles. And I'm like, well, where was my miracle? And maybe there's stuff in the background. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know everything, but I think that we should be allowed, if we're going to be honest, we're mad at God. And if God is all knowing and all powerful, like we know He is, then He knows I'm mad.
Right.
And I think that's between me and God, and I don't need someone else telling me I need to, do this and that and the other thing.
Or the other thing I was going to say is...
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, not at all. The other thing I was thinking about, too, is you sometimes think, I must have done something wrong.
To deserve
I know. Because of having my middle son having cancer and just different things we had gone through. And so I know that's a lie now, but for a long time I thought something's wrong with me. I did something wrong, or this wouldn't have happened. I don't know. That's what. So that's
and like I was talking earlier, like I made everyone pray so hard that morning before we went out, and then you lose both of them, and I mean, it still makes me think, is this payback? Did
I not pray hard enough?
Did I not pray hard enough? I've done something in my life prior to deserve it. All the things.
And I think that it's good to share that with other people, because I do think it's okay to be angry. I mean, think about your kids when they're angry with you because you said you can't play, your Xbox or something.
Right.
And they're angry with you, but they still love you.
Right.
Or as a parent, we can be angry with our children and still love them, So when I think of my relationship with God, I do. I think of Him as my Father, and I do get mad about certain things mostly. And think about that with kids too. Like, they don't always understand.
Right.
We're never going to understand why these things happened.
Right.
I don't think that we're ever going to know until we get to heaven, and maybe we will, and maybe we won't.
Right.
And
that's
will
the
it
hard
matter
pill
at
to
that
swallow.
point?
That's the point where it's like, well, why can't I know what, and there might, who knows? It's a fallen world, but I think it's okay to want to know.
Yeah.
And I've told Debbie, sometimes I felt like a freak. Like, what's wrong. Like, I'm in this world, I mentioned this, like in a bubble or in a balloon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're seeing life go on, and you're in this, and you're like banging on it. Don't you see me? I'm in here, and it's like you've been planted in this new world, and you're trying to figure out how to function in it,
And everyone else can see you. You feel like,
yeah.
I feel like that, like I'm in an aquarium sometimes.
Yes, and they'll
Yeah.
give you the
pity faces.
The pity faces. And, I was telling somebody one time, because you'll be in the grocery store. I used to have panic attacks because I didn't want to run into anybody. And I used to say, you're damned if you come up and talk to me, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Because you're having these double emotions all the time. And sometimes I didn't want to talk, but sometimes I could see that they're avoiding me.
Yeah, but how dare you not?
Right. Like I see you
Yes.
talking about me, and then
Basically,
all of a sudden,
you're going to lose either way.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And it's win or lose for them and for us, because our emotions are so jacked up and they're all over the place, and there's no more like one emotion. It's like 20 all
it's
at the same
tenfold.
time, and you don't even know how to process it in your own brain, and then someone says something to you, and next thing you know, you're in a panic attack, crawled up in the bathroom floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of our stories about our what happened to John Michael, John, and Jakey were on the TV, in the paper, and all that. So then you even had more people come up to you,
very public.
You don't want it public. I mean, it was hard enough to take it like it is. And then Debbie and I always laugh because all of a sudden I had like 300 best friends.
Yeah, that's
because they're all telling somebody, "Oh, I know. Did you hear about Sharon?"
Yeah, and it's almost
I don't even know who you are.
It's almost like you're famous for the tragedy.
Yeah, and that was really bad. I had to get an alarm system at my house, and cameras put up, and people follow me to my work, and constantly at my house. And I had to close my garage door, and because people were just letting themselves in, and we're taking you here, and we're taking you there, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and it's like, no, just no. And that's where I start to feel bad, because people want to be helpful. I'm not trying to deny that, but also all of a sudden you want to be part of my trauma, and it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes you just don't want, like right after we had all these people coming in, and they're not used to Sharon not being social. I would just go upstairs and close the door because I just didn't want to talk to people. And like you said, people you hadn't seen in years come running in your house all upset, and it's like, that's the other thing. I didn't have the energy to make them feel better.
Yes.
I didn't know how to.
Yes, because I think you and I are very similar that way. I needed to be alone, and a lot of other people didn't think I should be alone and wanted to just hover and hover and hover. And again, it's like nice, but at the same time too, there's some weirdness to it when people are coming out of the woodwork, and and that's where Sharon and I became friends, which is weird.
So tell me about how you two met, because you did not know each other.
Kind of, we did.
We knew who each other were.
Oh, okay, yeah. So tell me about that.
So we went to the same church, which will not be named. And so I knew about her family, who she was, and all that. And apparently she knew about me and my family, my kids, and all that.
Just through similar friends?
Or just like hearing their names, like, I'm not going to say the last names because I don't know if we're getting into that right now, but yeah.
So we would
we know of them. We've heard of them.
And some of our friends that we have are the same people.
All the same. Yeah, we have the same friends.
So
but we had never met.
Okay.
So you can tell the story about when my tragedy happened. You were with somebody that I was friends with.
Yes.
Too.
The day that JM passed, we were with good friends of Sharon, and they said, John Michael passed away, and their faces were just like obviously disbelief and sadness and grief, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, and you just don't even know what to do. This is terrible. And fast forward, it happens to me. 9 months later.
So I was on Facebook, which I'm on all social media, because it was just too much for me. So
Yeah.
I'm a survivor.
Yeah, that was the one thing. Like, I had to get off social media because it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard her story, and actually the one friend that was with her told me. I ran into her somewhere, and she told me about it. So,
which is crazy too.
It is crazy. And I didn't want, everybody wants you to meet so-and-so that lost their child or this and that. And I really did not want to, because I was in so much pain. I didn't want to feel anything for them. I know that sounds selfish.
But everybody did that.
Like, same thing with me, like all the time. You should meet this one. You should talk to that one. I should just, right now, I just need to be left alone.
Trying to
like, I don't need to talk to this one or that one, or just go away.
Don't you wish you had a podcast to listen to?
Yeah, exactly.
So I went on Facebook, and I sent her a message privately. I don't know if you remember the message, but it said, I'm Sharon, and I know you know who I am, and I just want you to know I'm praying for you because I hurt for you, something like that. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to, I think I wrote, you don't have to answer this back, because I wanted to give her the freedom to do that. Well, little by little, we're communicating very little. Well, I found out she had a Bible study and she kept it going, which I was like really shocked. Mm-hmm. Well, she invited me to it, and I did not want to go. I was like, no way.
Being a member of her Bible study, I can tell you there's probably numerous people that had the same idea. None of us wanted to go.
But I thought to myself,
but you're like, this is Debbie.
Yes, and
so
it's Debbie, and she says, it's different. It's not like other Bible studies. And she was absolutely right.
So I didn't want to go. But I thought to myself, how am I going to tell her? Her story is horrific that I'm not going. I'm the one that reached out to her first. So I go. I was panicked because I didn't want to go. And so little by little, I came back.
Because of guilt. Thank God for guilt, right?
Yeah, she guilts you into things.
Yeah, it was definitely guilt. No. And then it wasn't comforting, but to know she was as much mess as I was kind of helped, because I didn't feel so good, because there was some other freak like me.
Yeah.
You know, feeling the same stuff. And so then our friendship lost to a very close friendship.
That's actually, one of the things I do remember, and obviously that's how I met you, Sharon, was through the Bible study. What I remember most is, after John and Jake's passing was, our Bible study of 10 people had turned into what seemed like 50 people in the room.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of, my mom passing away when I was younger. And it was all of a sudden, all these people are your friends. You know, all of these kids come up to you in school and, oh my gosh, how are you doing? And all, you've never spoken to me before.
Yeah.
But there's something about loss and tragedy that almost attracts people who love drama, I guess, and they want to be right in the middle of it, almost so that they can tell other people that they were right in the middle of it, and that they can say, oh, well, I'm close to Sharon, and this is what happened, or I'm close to Debbie, and this is how she's feeling. So I did see a lot of that, at kind of already knowing what I knew, it's kind of like, I'm just going to step back here. And I didn't feel totally comfortable with, 50 brand new people in this Bible study that had never shown up before.
Yeah, that was too many people.
It was too many people.
Not that way anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I stepped in that was too many people.
Oh, it was.
I can't believe I kept coming back.
It was a lot of people. And I think for myself, I had to step away from it. And then I knew that I could come back when it had dwindled back down to kind of its normal size, kind of the people who were going to be there for the long haul.
Right.
So that being said, I do kind of want to talk about, we laugh about some things that people have done or said. I swear I'm going to write a book that says, who says that?
Yeah.
That's going to be the name of the book. Who says that? But, I would like you guys to talk a little bit about, how that felt with these people just kind of all of a sudden there and everybody's your best friend and you just kind of want to be alone at this point too, which is understandable. You kind of want to be alone in your grief and you're still processing everything that's happening, but these people kind of won't leave you alone. And then you've got on top of that news crew and, and, people, journalists wanting to know.
Questions.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that for you, Sharon.
Well, yes, we were all over the news and the school where JM taught, and I guess it was very organic. But there was this big like boulder rock, and the kids started writing on it to him, just what he meant to them, and it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it was just people just kept coming to the school because it really affected the students because they loved him so much. But the day of the whatever you call it, day before the funeral, the news crew was out there, and Alex's John Michael's father-in-law chased them away because that was, and there were so many people. A lot of people.
They were outside of your home?
No, outside the funeral home and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But they would interview. They might have gone up to the school. I don't remember because it's almost like you're functioning, but you're outside your body. And
it's like you're outside looking in, but you're also feeling it at the same time.
Right.
It's an otherworldly feeling. Like it's very hard
and
to
you
process.
feel trapped. Like if there's too many people around. Debbie and I talk about this all the time. You feel trapped. Like I got to get out of here now. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I felt when the media was around. But you turn on. It was on the TV. It was in the paper, and I had to stop myself from not looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I know, Debbie, you had similar experience.
Similar news crews came to the neighborhood. They were calling my house constantly. They went to my church and were trying to interview people there. And I think they went to the funeral place too. And, if you just want to talk, no. And then immediately phone calls, constant. Can we buy your house? Can we buy your house? Can we buy your house? We want to buy your house. Don't you want to sell your Leave me alone. Leave me alone. And then prank phone calls. I've got a really, really, really horrific prank call. And my poor brother, he was like the barrier to a lot of it. And people showing up, he's like, nope, that person's got the crazy eyes. Get him out. And, anyway, so luckily my brother was a huge barrier for me, because that's really hard to obviously. No, I don't want to talk about it. You saw the news, and then just people writing stuff online. Like I made the mistake of Googling myself, I saw what some of the people wrote. That'll be a whole other session or segment of just things that people say and do. And it's unbelievable. But
Debbie and I call it the deets people. They want all the details.
Yes.
And you'll sit there and go, I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
And they're like, well, I do, so I'm going to keep asking.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get something you don't want.
No kidding.
And it won't be pleasant for you. Leave me alone. You're trying to be the one with grace over here, and they're just like pushing boundaries. And
I think if you were maybe able to tell people one thing, I know that we've talked about this before, is, kind of believe me when I'm telling you. If I tell you I don't want you around, if I tell you that I just want to be alone, believe people when they tell you these things, because, like you said, other people have different ideas of, oh, you need to get out of the house. You need to not be alone right now. But people need to believe what you are telling them.
Yes, and respect
when you're in the moment.
Because it changes. We have so much going on in our minds that just respect that, please. It's not because I don't love you. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's just that is what I need right now. And right now I need to take care of me and my child. And how I have to do it is how I have to do it.
Right.
And maybe that's different from how you would have to do it. I don't know. You're not in the situation I am. And this is what I'm able to do. So please respect that, because by pushing and pressing, you're just adding more to the already horrific situation I'm in.
Right.
And then on top of it, you're being made to feel like disrespectful, and you're, and again, we'll talk about that at another
Yeah.
And I think also just realize sometimes we don't know what we need.
Right.
And sometimes we just need, well, a lot of times we just need to vent if we vent, and not try to fix it. Stop trying to fix it. So many people, and I know they care about you, and they have to realize you are not the same person that you were. Like,
and it's not fixable.
It's not
just
fixable.
not.
You can't fix it.
No, but just be there for whoever that is. If you're a good friend, just be there, and don't ask questions. Let them just be you.
Thank you for listening of What's Good About Grief podcast. I'm April.
Sharon.
And Debbie.
Bye. Bye.